Alright, so like I said, calculator on main and then math 3. You guys can see on the right over here, it should be on the right in your calculator, there is third row down, a straight line down. Alright, so once you hit that, if you haven't typed anything yet, it should come up with answer, okay? The reason, does anyone know what that straight line is? Yeah, James. Close. If you have one on each side, and that would give you an absolute value, yeah. But in this, if I've just got it 1 at the end of my equation, it means given that, all right? And we will use it later on when we learn about probability, but it means given that. So if I said solve for, let's say I do my solve function. You know how when you put in your calculator, you say you solve for a certain equation and you end up with x equals to this or that, right? If you put in this line here, all right, and let's say I said that in the question it says x must be above 0. All right, so what I'll do is I'll put in I'm going to put in x is greater than or equal to 0. Actually, let's do this. So you might see this. All right, so you've got the answer. I don't know if you can see that. It's backwards. Sorry about that. The answer, and then I've put that given that line, and then I've got x is greater than 0. Can you see that?
Sorry, which one's the given that line?
So if you go to keyboard math 3, on the very right, third column, yep, straight line down. That's given that. All right. So essentially, now the answer's over here, but essentially what it's saying is that the answer, or what I've got before, so you could say solve x equals to blah, blah, blah. I've got the answer. Now x has to be greater than 0. So whatever solution it gives you, if there's like 50 solutions, it'll only give you whatever values where x is greater than 0. Okay? Now you could do that between any domain, sorry. You could have x is between 3 and 6, doesn't matter. You just change that accordingly using the equal to, greater than, blah, blah, blah signs. Okay? Yes? This is a calculator stack, yes. Thank you for asking. With calculator. Do I have any questions about that? No? Okay, next thing I want to mention is defining, just in case for those of you who forget. So define, you go to action, and then you go command and define. The thing I want to mention, actually, if I could tap define here. There you go. The thing I want to mention is that when you've hit define, you could type in f of x equals to blah, blah, blah. If you go to interactive and then define, same thing, but it prompts you with this table over here. Okay. Now the function name and the variable, normally we would just leave it as f of x. But sometimes when you do a SAC, there's more than one question. So you might want to specify, for example, if it says, what if it's x of t, right? You guys might have heard that with this book. Hopefully, would have heard that with your displacement. What if it's s of r, whatever it is, okay? So you can go ahead and change this. So if you type in, let's say your equation is r squared plus 2, all right? So I would put in the expression r squared plus 2, and you can see that I've got there. Now, just a heads up, when you type in letters, don't use the variable tab. Use the ABC, I think it's ABC. Yeah, ABC tab over here at the very bottom, because variable will give you x, right? And it's x, y, z is already defined in calculator. It's a bit different, right? So you want to use ABC for r squared, and you can see that I've typed r squared plus 2 over here. Now, if I type r squared plus 2 right now and just hit enter and define that, it's not going to make sense. Reason being is because you've right now defined the function as f of x. That's what the function variable is, f of x. So let's say the function is s equals to r squared plus 2. I'll have to change this f into an s. So I'm going to go ahead and type in s. And then my variable would be r, obviously not x. So I would have to type in r. In which case you would get this. Once you've got this, please do look over the function. A lot of the time, because the table is a bit weird, when you type to the power of, it won't actually give you to the power of in that table. So please make sure you go back and check this. It doesn't say, for example, r times 2 plus 2, which would be incorrect, and then all your subsequent answers would be incorrect as well. So go back and actually just double check that before you move on. Okay? Any questions so far? No? Okay. Another quick reminder, once you've graphed something, so I'm going to just quickly graph. If I go to menu and then graph and table, I'm going to go ahead and type in x squared plus 3, just any function, it's just for a demonstration, and it looks like that, okay? Now, just a reminder on how to do tangents and normal equations at the same process. You go to analysis, sketch. It's really hard to touch backwards. And then I think that's his tangent. Tangent, all right? And it'll prompt you with a random tangent. If you're looking for a tangent at a specific value, for example, x equals to 3, you just hit 3. It'll prompt you with this, where it says the x value is 3. You can change that to whatever you like, and then just hit OK or enter. And it will draw the tangent line for you. I think no, that's right. Okay, drawing the tangent line for you now. That tangent line isn't super helpful at the moment because you just know what it looks like. If you want to know exactly what the equation of the tangent is, and this is really important, hit enter again, and it will give you the equation of tangent right there. Y equals to 6x minus 6. Yes?
Can you just go through that from the start again?
Yep, no worries. So first thing you do is analysis,
Yeah.
and then you go sketch, tangent, and then after that it'll give you a random tangent. You put in whatever value of x you want, so for example 1, and then you hit, oops, that's not enter, and then you hit OK. Alright, once you've done that, it'll give you this. It won't give you the equation, you have to hit enter again, and that will give you the equation of the tangent right there. Alright, same thing with normal, except instead of tapping tangent, you hit the tab underneath that says normal. Now anyone watching back at this, you're going to see a lot of my face, I apologize. Alright, and the same thing, you put in your value, so let's say you put in 3, it'll prompt you with the same thing, you hit enter again, it'll draw the normal, and then you hit enter again to give the equation. Okay? Any questions? No? Okay. Last thing is just a note about maximum and minimums, right? So I've just refreshed it, so it looks back like that. Now, what happens is the calculator isn't all-knowing, unfortunately, right? So when you put in to find the minimum or the maximum, if it's not in the actual zoom function, and actual what it can see, the window, sorry, then it's going to have a really hard time giving you a minimum. Okay, so if you go to, you guys hopefully know this, if you go analysis G solve, it'll present you with these options over here, one of which is minimum, and there's maximum, F min, and F max, right? So think of it as minimum, maximum, local, and then F min, F max as your absolute. But that, remember, is what is given in your window. Okay, so what you might do, let's say I've gone over and I've moved the function. Let's say like this. It might be very difficult to find the actual minimum. So please make sure you know how to zoom, all right? So when you're zooming, you can just hit auto, but sometimes it'll give you like a very weird window, as in your Y might be really stretched out, or it might be really squashed in. It's very hard to tell. If you just want to reset to what the standard is, you can just go zoom original, or you can go zoom quick and then quick standard, same thing. That'll just give you what it normally looks like, your normal window. It'll just give you what your normal window looks like, but you need to be able to manipulate the window of your actual calculator. Okay, so whether that's actually defining, so hopefully you guys remember this from previous lessons. If you hit that box over here, not that one, this one over here, it'll present you with what your min and maximum x values could be in your window. That's up to you. Now, there was something else. Oh yeah, so hopefully you remember the line I was talking about earlier. So if we go back to math 3, there we go, and then you hit that given line. So you can, oops, that's not what I want. There we go. So you can see that I've got the equation there, and then I've got given that. Okay? Yeah. That given that will help us define a domain. So let's say the equation says x has to be between 0 and 4. I can type in now that x, so between 0 and 4, and this is your notation that hopefully you guys remember. So there you can see I've got x is equal to or greater than 0 and equal to or less than 4. So it's between 0 and 4 inclusive. When I hit enter, when I graph it now, let's move this over here. Okay, when I graph this now, oh, what have I done? there. When I graph it, you can see that the function now only exists between where x is 0 and 4 inclusive, because I said inclusive. Okay? So that'll make things a lot easier for you to see, especially if you now auto zoom it, because before it'll assume that the graph goes off infinitely, but this way it gives you a domain for your equation. And it's a really good idea to include that, because looking back, if you're sketching and this question specifies that this value must be, x must be between this value and this value, and you're sketching from negative infinity to positive infinity, it's not going to be over appropriate values, all right? So that way you can actually just go ahead and find what your endpoints are. Now, speaking of endpoints, you could go ahead and substitute your value of x into your original equation. So hopefully you guys know, for example, f of 1 would give you what my y value is when x is 1. Or you could just hit trace. It'll give you, once again, a random point. Now, if you put in a certain value, so same thing, I'm going to put in 3. It'll prompt you with this. You can hit OK. And it'll once again present you with that point there. You don't need to actually go back and substitute it back in. Okay, you can, it's just a different way. All right, have I just bombarded you guys with too much calculator nonsense? Are you guys feeling okay? Any questions? No, not specifically? All right.